Alright, ladies and gentlemen, I'm your host for today's broadcast, Insane Lear 13, as we are beginning to get underway here for Stint 2 out of the 5 here for TORA's 10 Hours of Sunset. And apparently they are doing a full lobby reset, I guess, because we are now losing everybody here. Not sure what's going on, and I do apologize for that. Also, hello Maria. Good job on bringing home the solid top 5 run there in Stint 1. Let's try and get into the proper lobby here. This is not the proper lobby, whatever. They're probably just doing some crazy adjustments or something. Why am I the group leader? Oh. Yeah, I'm trying to maintain great energy, but I only slept for 4 hours last night. I don't know why. I normally don't have any issues sleeping, but I always seem to struggle sleeping the night before a big event and a big stream, and I don't know why. It's incredibly frustrating. All right, well, we're still trying to get all of this underway here. Come on. All right. Apparently there is a big set of technical issues going down that isn't letting them even set up a lobby, let alone load onto the circuit. So we do apologize for that. I'm going to go ahead and knock out a total game refresh then, just in case. Alright, well, ladies and gentlemen, we are in a prolonged holding pattern right now, so just stand by. Once we get an invite, we'll get into the event proper. Speaking of which, that might be it. All right, well, not everyone is here yet, but we do have a good chunk of our drivers. So let's go ahead and knock out some of the drivers that will be, look at some of the drivers who will be partaking in today's second stint here for the C lobby. Oh, excuse me. Yesunku is going to be back in the McLaren Artoria. FTC Dartman is going back-to-back in the Mercedes, number 51. XL Evo LX is back in the Karcha Mercedes. FRA Deer Plot is going to try and go back-to-back on stint wins. Then you'll have NWR Origin, who is in the number 157 once again. DTYT is also going back-to-back in the 770. UDP Saki is going to take over the number 11 Mercedes. RZX Giacchini is going to be in the number 94 Mercedes. Wolfel Guitar is going to be in the number 13. Then you will have the two Aston Martins. One of them dropped out, I think, in stint 1, but Primo Carnivore will be taking over this Aston here. HYR Shorty, we cannot see their paint scheme for some reason. Then Alpine A110 is going to be back in the Apex 545 Alpine. AX4X Mikun is going back-to-back in the Toyota Supra. Deadpan X7 is going to be running the, I believe that is the 212 Audi. In the bottom category, so will Apex Dragon 5, who will be running the Apex 454. And UDP Wick is going to continue to be the only Porsche entrant in the entire event in that green and black number 14. Then you have the Toyotas, the GR86 of RM Lynx, who's going to be trying to go back-to-back in stint wins. Green Echo is going to be in the purple and white Raven GR86. UDP Glitty Kitty is going to be back in the number 34 Toyota. And Evan Bob will be... Where did Evan Bob go? Evan Bob will be in the 130 Excite machine. There may have been another person who jumped in that I missed. Oh, that is very much not the car that they would be running in. Woeful Guitar is going back-to-back off, so... Okay. All right, we're in a bit of a waiting period as we're waiting for the last of our drivers to get underway here. But it does look like we have all 21 of our contenders already here with us at this stage of the event. So Stint 1 was a little bit interesting in the first 45 minutes. A lot of interesting battles as the Mercedes Mafia didn't all qualify right at the front. They had to kind of brute force their way up through the grid after the first 2 rounds of pit stops. But once all that was said and done and over with, we had 5 Mercedes in the top 6 positions. We ended up finishing the race with 4 Mercedes in the top 6 positions as one of them dropped out. Our second place runner for a majority of Stint 1 was SFM Darkser, but Darkser had a crash hitting the inside wall in turn 1, totaling the car, and in the process he lost so much time he fell to 3rd position. There was also some other issues that happened to other drivers in the lower category, but the big thing in the upper category, but the big thing that really ended up shaking things up was that several drivers were going for a 4-stop strategy, several drivers are going for a 5-stop. Everyone is required to do 4 stops, but a 5-stop is in the cards. Several drivers were under the impression that a 5-stop strategy was going to be a legitimate call to run with, and it did not work out. For the majority of the field outside of our first and second place finishers, the 5-stop strategy ended up significantly harming their overall distance and positioning. So keep that in mind. The lower category lobby, the racing honestly is a lot better than the lower category, but the driver performance seems to be very wide open. So we don't see drivers in the bottom category really fighting on top of each other as often as we did in the top category. One of the more interesting things was that Maria pulled off a 4th place finish, just being relaxed and confident while running a 4-stop strategy, while the driver they had been fighting with went with a 5-stop, and in the process didn't even finish 5th, was all the way down in 6th position, a very distant 6th position at that. And now we begin to get the field reordered properly once more here. So, the starting order will be almost an exact replica of what it was in Stint 1. The only difference will be obviously some of the drivers will be different, but the cars will all still be the same. So AX4X Mikun will have a chance to try and right the wrong that was Stint 1 and can try to lead from the lead. Well, one can try to lead from the front of the field here at the start of Stint 2. Then you'll have 3 AMGs all in a row, followed by HYR Shorty in one of the 2 Aston Martin Vantages. Then you'll have XL Evo LX back in the AMG. Then Jess Unku. That McLaren TORA finished 3rd in Stint 1. They're going to be starting 7th again. CBL Ferrari, UDP Saki, RZX Giacchini, and FTC Dartman will be the other 4 more drivers in the AMG Mafia. Then you'll have the other Aston Martin Vantage of Primo Carnivore, followed by Unanimate going back-to-back in the Alpine. Then NWR Origin will be last of the drivers of the Mercedes Mafia. And I'll get you a rundown through GT5 in just a little bit here if you're willing to wait. All right, back to moving once more. Oh, we've got Intervals. That's new. They've not had that before. All right. Yeah. All right. They're not the most accurate thing in the world, but I appreciate that. Yeah. All right. We like the sound of that. All right, real quickly looking down in the GT5 category, you'll have RM Lynx leading Apex Dragon ahead of Evan Bob. Then it will be Green Echo, UDP Glitty Kitty, and UDP Wick. And then Deadpan will round out the back of the GT5 category. And we are already underway here at Sunset. And immediately, big slide there by HYR Shorty, who for some reason we cannot see the paint scheme of. HYR Shorty immediately dropped tires in the dirt and was immediately sideways, but somehow was able to maintain the majority of their positions. They run right ahead of Jess Unku here, and it is a knife fight here in the middle of the field. Now they come onto the back straightaway for the first time, and Unku seems to maybe dealing with some sort of disconnect issue as they're in ghost mode. Are they going to reset the lobby? Yep, it looks like we're going to have a lobby reset. So something seems to have gone wrong to warrant a lobby reset. Well, please stand by. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Sunset as we are waiting to get properly underway here. Already had one attempt that ended up going sideways, but we're going to try attempt number 2 here. For some reason, HYR Shorty seems to be having an issue where we're not able to see the design on their car. But other than that, we should be able to get underway this time by. So they get the field ordered up once more here. Okay, so as they get the order set back up here, All right, let's do this again. Take 2 here at sunset. All right, and we're off. And we've lost the ticker. All right. Well, it was fun while we had it, but I guess whatever went wrong was enough to what had to be fixed. So we lose that. And we do apologize for that. You'll have to kind of estimate distances by, putting your thumb up and trying to calculate the gaps visually. We do apologize for that. As the field comes down, we're going to attempt to do this for the second time here for Stint 2. And we are underway immediately. Wolfville Guitar looks to the outside of Mikun. There is nothing there. DTY goes for a lunge there on Deer Plot and ends up running himself off circuit in the process and immediately starts hemorrhaging time. So, how long will it take for Deer Plot to catch Wolfville Guitar and go around him? Well, he's already gone and completed the overtake. Wolfville Guitar is nowhere near Deer Plot's comfortability, and the overtake for lead is going to be likely before we even get to the start-finish line. Deer Plot's already right behind Mikun as they now fly down the back straightaway. Not quite nose to tail. Mikun holds a tighter line, but Deer Plot is going to have the inside as they accelerate out. It's not even going to be anything close to a battle. Deer Plot and Mercedes that has superior straight line speed will clear the Toyota Supra and will take over the lead. Oh, no, he's not cleared it. Mikun's fighting back. Neck and neck down the straightaway. But Deer Plot's got the nose ahead and has the inside line and completes the overtake by the time they get down to turn 2. Deer Plot cannot go deep enough under brakes to try and make anything happen. So Deer Plot immediately takes over where they left off in the prior stint. Wolfville Guitar is a distant third and has HYR Shorty and DTY trying to close in right now. With just Unku a little bit farther back. Unku slaps the outside wall farther back there. Side by side between DTY and Shorty. And Shorty trapped on the outside, puts the power down, sends it over the curves, and he's back ahead, but slides the car, slaps that right rear quarter panel against the outside wall. And all of a sudden, here you go again. DTY looks to the inside, and they're all being held up there by Wolfville Guitar, who is obviously significantly slower than all of the drivers behind him. Great qualifying position means nothing if you can't keep the car there. Shorty goes to the inside of Wolfville Guitar. Unku gets to the inside of DTY. Shorty will finally overtake Guitar. Not quite. They're going to be side by side as they go through speedway turns 1 and 2 here. As is DTY side by side with Unku. Shorty goes to the outside of Guitar. Neck and neck. Unku falls in line just ahead of DTY. Bit of a moment back here between those two. Wolfville Guitar now behind Shorty as CBL Ferrari in 7th, who has now made that menage a trois in the fight for 5th. Wolfville Guitar has already lost touch with HYR Shorty though. The Mercedes Mafia is making their way back up through the field once more. Ooh, Ferrari gets hit from behind by DTY. As Unku gets a little bit ahead of Ferrari here. He is held up now by Woeful Guitar. Woeful Guitar is significantly off pace, it seems, compared to the other drivers here. And by starting in the front like this, it's just making it agony and frustration for most of the midfield. DTY seems to have gone off farther back. And UDT Saki has gone off as well, as fallen way behind even the GT5 cars. Alright, Guitar on the outside of Yasunku. And here comes Ferrari. Ferrari has a run on both these drivers. He gets to the inside of Guitar, no problem. He's got the draft off of Unku. As he try and parlay this into an overtake before the turn 1 braking zone. He looks inside, looks outside, but is not committing to a move. Into turn 1. How aggressive do you dive bomb into the turn 2 hairpin? Woeful Guitar goes the extreme outside, drops tires to the dirt. Here comes Ferrari to the inside of Unku. And the McLaren, trapped on the outside, has no recourse, and Ferrari is right back by. They tried to go side by side, but there's just no room through there. Woeful Guitar looks to the inside of Unku. Unku, while I had a bad entry, had a little bit smoother of an exit, was able to get the power down without too much issue and maintain station over Woeful Guitar. So now it will be DTY. Oh, big slap back there. Who was that? Was that on an anime? Someone had a giant slap back there. As DTY and Woeful Guitar side by side here for 6th. That easily goes in DTY's favor. And now Unanimate gets alongside. That Raven number 13 machine clears up. He's by. It's a little bit of a touch from behind. Oh, DTY hits the curb. It's all sorts of sideways. Here goes Unanimate by. There goes Oregon right behind Guitar. Front straightaway. Origin, Guitar, DTY all on top of each other. Dark could not make the inside line stick. He slides wide, gives Origin a run. Origin goes with a big dive bomb and slides himself right in front of Guitar. Kind of an inversion of what we saw when Mercedes Mafia doing in Stint 1. Right now, we only have 2 Mercedes in the top 6. What in the devil was that dive bomb? I mean, he got him alongside Origin, but Origin has more grip. It's chaos here. And Guitar may not be able to race very well, but he has really got his elbows out and is fighting for every single position as if it's the last lap here. Going down the back straightaway once more. Nose to tail for these 4 different Mercedes. DTY, Origin, Guitar, and Jasony. Jasony right behind Guitar, trying to set him up for an overtake coming into Speedway, turns 1 and 2. Guitar hits the curb. Jasony slides out the rear, but he's got to the inside. Neck and neck for 9th. Origin trying to do the same thing to DTY farther up, and Jasony completes the overtake. Side by side farther up, but it looks like Origin has that position on lock. Jasony has Guitar right on his rear bumper, but Guitar slides wide and wide. Now he dive bombs going into turn 2 hairpin, but the car does not have the braking ability to do that. He's stuck in 10th, and now will be under threat from XL Evo LX behind. Farther up, Unku and Ferrari having a bit of a fight of their own. Mercedes versus McLaren. And that is the Alpine hanging out in 6th, just a little bit behind. Big slide by the McLaren there. This is just about calmed down, though. This little menage a trois here for 4th position. The top 3 have all ran away from the rest of the field here. Unanimate gets to the inside of Unku. So I was wrong. This fight's alive. Unanimate to the inside of Unku. Neck and neck. Alpine. McLaren. They come onto the front straightaway now. McLaren has a bit of a draft from the Mercedes ahead, and Unanimate has to fall back in line behind. Into the turn 2 hairpin. Unku is wide. CBL is wide. Unanimate actually had a little bit better run through there. These are the fights for the spots farther back. DTY slaps to the outside. Here comes Gassini. Goes for a giant lunge down the inside. DTY crosses him over on exit. They have a slide. Looks like, for the moment, DTY has it. Gassini may be faster. Oh, and DTY just completely bungles the braking zone. And Wolfle Guitar does the same thing behind. And now Wolfle Guitar is under threat from XL Evo. This fight's not done with, though. Unku has Unanimate right behind him. Unku's trying to use the draft off of CBL Ferrari as a defense against the Alpine behind him. But here comes the Alpine to the inside. Drag race. Again, the McLaren has the draft from the Mercedes ahead. Unanimate holds the inside line, though. Both of them have a really unideal line go through one, but Unku ends up having to back way out to not end up in the dirt. And now the Alpine's up to 5th. And the McLaren slips back to 6th. And while all that's going on, here comes NWR Origin. Origin had a disconnect late in the prior stint. He's trying to claw back now. We know that Origin has pace to be a top 3 finisher here, but he has to be able to make it the entire length of the stint in order to make that happen. Unku now tucks up behind Unanimate again. That Alpine seems to have a bit of a disadvantage when it comes to the bigger straights. They're able to accelerate out of the corner so much smoother than what the McLaren can do. If Unanimate can get a draft off of CBL Ferrari, could that be enough to keep the McLaren behind? We're right on board with NWR Origin as he watches that fight just ahead. All 3 of those cars, CBL Ferrari, Unanimate, and Unku all slightly pulling on Origin in the straight here. Unanimate looking to the inside of CBL Ferrari, way up the order. Not going to be able to make the move. Not there, not yet at least. Ferrari's wide in the hairpin. Unanimate has a much better run out, and now here comes Unanimate. He's got to try to do it, and yes! Unanimate now up to 4th. Now we only have 1 Mercedes in the top 5 positions. Well, the top 4 positions, I mean. So Mercedes Mafia showing a bit of weakness here. Unanimate holding station over CBL Ferrari. And that is GT5 traffic. That is bottom category traffic. And Gresho runs Unanimate off the circuit. And look at all that. Unku makes the moves. Origin goes by everyone and goes right up to 4th. Just with some traffic management. CBL Ferrari is going to be absolutely livid at that. And more than him, Unanimate and Unku are really going to be livid. Traffic management is the thing that really shook up this big fight for 4th. And now Origin has it and is just going to run off without issue. We know that for a fact. He was one of the fastest drivers in Stint 1. There's no reason to doubt he won't be one of the fastest in Stint 2. He's already gone far enough to break the draft from the cars behind. Unanimate in 5th. CBL Ferrari and Jess Unku drag racing for the 6th position. The McLaren has the draft off the Alpine ahead, but Ferrari has the inside line. Uku has to back out of it to not end up in the wall coming out of turn number 1. Again, that's like the second time in 3 laps that that's happened. There's also a bit of a fight going on for second and third here between an Aston and Toyota as they navigate their way through the GT5 category traffic right now. Mikun slides wide but keeps the car on station. Seems like the battling is kind of calming down now. Everyone's settling back into their rhythm here. Is that our first driver making a stop? It is. That is our first driver making a stop. Is that Origin? I believe that is Origin. Already stopping? Is there damage? No, he's just burned up the tires already. He's not the only one. AX4X Mikun also goes ahead and makes a stop very early on in the affair. So they are the first drivers to make stops outside of UDP Saki, who, while we did not catch it, had an accident early on. So this is good news for HYR Shorty because he gets to stay out and burn off some laps in cleaner air now. But the same can also be said for both Origin and Mikun, who will now have clean traffic ahead of them for a while. Not a long while. They're going to catch up on FTC Dartman, who is definitely off base. But they will have cleaner air for a while. FRA Deerplot is doing the same thing in this stint they did in Stint 1, just walking off and dominating. There's really been nothing to talk about from him all day long today. And then it's a similar scenario in the bottom category, GT5. RM Lynx is kind of walking off with the top spot. Nothing really of note between them. And Deerplot is now making his stop. It's not even been 18 full minutes, but he's already making his stop. That's a lot earlier than what we were used to seeing Deerplot do. But if you do want to make this a 5-stop event, and you go all softs all the way through, like what we saw Deerplot do in Stint 1, divide 100 minutes by 6. You'd be looking at stopping about once every 17 minutes. And look at that, the majority of the field all coming in now. I don't think that making the extra stop is the way to go fastest, or at least go for the biggest distance, but a lot of drivers seem to be committing to going for a 5-stop strategy, I guess. The exceptions are HYR Shorty, CBL Ferrari, and Primo Carnivore, who we have not really talked a lot about thus far today. He is in the other Aston in the top category. But everyone except the top 3 have already made their first round of stops, and they're looking at maybe making it a 5-stop affair. In the GT5 category, though, no, I think it looks like 4 stops are likely on the table for the bottom category. Again, I really doubt that going 5 stops is the way to maximize your distance, but if everyone's doing it, it may not matter. GT5 drivers stay out. Well, Lynx can probably stay out for a couple more laps here. There is another fight going on though in the bottom category. This is Glitty Kitty and Apex Dragons. As I say that, Glitty Kitty just came into the pits just as Apex Dragon caught them. And now Primo Carnivore making their stop as well. Where are their tires at? They are at 67. Oh, wow, they really pushed those tires to the limit. What is Shorty and Ferrari doing here? Shorty staying out. Only at 46, so he's likely on a harder compound tire right now. Then you have CBL Ferrari here. 82%. CBL Ferrari might have compromised his race already by pushing those tires a little too far. 82%. At that point, you're going to be losing multiple seconds a lap here. And the ability to stay on track will be incredibly difficult. I think Shorty may have the best strategy out of everyone here, but with the speed that FRA Deer Plot has shown today, it just may not matter. I'm really concerned, though, about this driver here, CBL Ferrari, trying to take soft tires for the first 20 minutes of the race. He's at 85% wear on that left front, 86% on that left front. But he will make it into the pits, but you have to wonder how much ground is he going to lose on track. He was fighting with the likes of Jess Unku, who pitted, who's already made their stop. There's also Unanimated as well, who's way farther up the road. So where is Ferrari going to end up in relation with these drivers? How much time has he lost by staying out for such a ridiculously long period of time? And now we see our bottom category drivers making their first round of stops. Dragon's pitting, Deadpan's pitting, Evan Bob's pitting, UDP Wick is pitting. Where's Ferrari? Well, Ferrari is nowhere near Unanimate. He is still ahead of Unku, but just barely. So Unku gets the track position back over CBL Ferrari, as Ferrari pushed those tires maybe a bit too far. HYR Shorty is the only driver left in the top category who has yet to make their first stop. They put on a harder set of compounds to try and really open things up a bit. Also, RM Lynx and Green Echo in the bottom category have yet to make their first stops as well. Unku holds station over CBL Ferrari. Ferrari has a tire advantage now, though. And the Mercedes trying to fight back. Mercedes Mafia was easily the big story in Stint 1, but here in Stint 2, we only have 2 Mercedes running in the top 6 positions right now. But granted, those numbers could change once Shorty finally makes their first stop, but still, Mercedes Mafia seems to be getting a little bit derailed here early on in Stint number 2. A bit of a spin, it looks like. Is that Unanimated, who's had an accident? No damage to the car, but there's so much smoke and he's so much slower. I have to wonder if Unanimated bounced off the curb and couldn't keep the car under him, and he threw up a big cloud of smoke in the process, but this now drops Unanimated to 6. So now we have 2 Mercedes back in the top 4 positions and 3 in the top 6. Excuse me. But Unku holds station over Ferrari, and Unanimate runs right behind that yellow Mercedes, driven by the CBL driver. And Shorty is finally coming into the pits. So where is HYR Shorty going to end up in relation to the rest of the field after staying out for so long compared to the rest of the drivers? Everyone else except for Green Echo has made their first stop now. And you have another little fight going on between a bunch of Mercedes here. This is Jasny, DTY, and Evo, and Woeful Guitar, and okay, DTY goes off, and it is Woeful Guitar who gets by all of them. Woeful Guitar now moves up into the 9th position over this duo. And look at this, after making stops, Shorty is only 2nd and not too terribly far off from FRA Deer Plot. And the idea was for Shorty to make it a 4-stop event, and that stint was on mediums. If they can make it sauce all the way to the end, they would have a tire advantage on Deer Plot for the rest of the run. So that could have some significant knock-on effects going forward. CBL Ferrari has a tire advantage over these two ahead of him. But despite that, he does not seem to be able to make any overtakes out of it. Uninanimate and Unku maintain their positions over him right now, as he is stuck in the 7th position at the moment. Right now, the Mercedes Mafia holds every spot from 7th to 12th, and they also have 14th place as well. No one's on the front straightaway now. Destiny. Uninanimate gonna try and make a move on Unku here. I don't think he's close enough to make it happen. We have to wonder about the stability and the handling ability of that Alpine. He had some sort of big spin, big slide in these corners earlier. Will he be able to keep the thing under him? He did go the entirety of Stint 1 without issue, so maybe it's just a bad one-off. Maybe it's contact with a car in a different category, but still, it's enough to make you wonder. This fight continues between these Mercedes here. Wolf of Qatar seems to have come to life just a bit, but as I say that, he goes off, runs wide, and lets both of the Mercedes, well, lets one of the Mercedes by. DCY can't seem to make anything of it, while XL Evo gets back by. Big slide by Wolf of Qatar there. And Qatar is wide again. And now here comes DTY to his inside. Neck and neck. Over through the chicane and onto the drag strip. DTY all sorts of sideways. Wolf of Qatar on the outside, but does not have the handling to make an outside overtake stick. But there's contact and DTY drops the tire into the dirt. And that's how Wolf of Qatar gets back by. DTY trying to hold it side by side. Now they come onto the back straightaway once again. But Qatar holds the station. DTY has to settle for 11 for now. Under the Prorata Bridge. And look at that, UDP Saki. The next of the Mercedes starting to come back into the fray once more here. And XL Evo has now really opened up a gap on this group. It's absolutely just pulled away from him. Completely invisible pretty much to this duo. This duo continues to fight between Uninanimate and CBL Ferrari and just Unku, but now Ferrari has finally gotten by. Unku goes to the inside of an Uninanimate. McLaren, Alpine, Mercedes, 3 different manufacturers fighting for this position. Uninanimate over the curb is all sorts of sideways, and that's going to back Unku up. That might be all that Ferrari needs to break away from these guys and just start turning hot laps. Green Echo finally makes his first stop of the day. Your plot leads, but HYR Shorty is starting to run him down. 17% tires for Shorty. For Deer Plot, he is at 4%. So does Deer Plot now have to deal with a potential challenger? Didn't really have a challenger at all in Stint 1, but maybe it's going to happen here in Stint 2. This trio continues to go back and forth at it, but it does seem like CBL Ferrari has ended up ahead. Oh, wow, has that already happened at the front? Yeah, Shorty has already caught Deer Plot. It's on. The fight at the front of the field is on. Are we going to see a different leader on merit now? Shorty has caught Deer Plot. They are right there behind the lone Porsche in the bottom category. Doesn't really give either of them a chance to get an ideal lane. Deer Plot, big twitch, big slide. coming into Speedway turns 1 and 2. Shorty has a draft off of him. Could this be it? He looks to the outside of Deer Plot. It's a drag race down the straight. Shorty has the momentum. And he'll clear him at the line. Shorty is going to lead on merit. Those are bottom category cars ahead. You have to navigate them quickly and efficiently, and that's exactly what's going to happen. Deadpan runs himself into the dirt as leaders go by. But Shorty now holds station over Deer Plot. And now he starts trying to open the gap against the Mercedes. So we may have a different driver out in front now. And UDP Saki, who had an accident very early on, is already making their second stop of the event. Bit of a twitch, bit of a slide by SYR Shorty, as he's still being held up by bottom category traffic, but Deer Plot is struggling to keep up with him, even as Shorty is being held up by traffic. Finally gets alongside Apex Dragon and powers by. Deer Plot catches him in a straight line, not going to be held up anywhere near the same amount. Shorty will catch UDP Liddy Kitty here in a straight line, so it shouldn't really hold him up. Does Deer Plot have enough draft to maybe make his fight back on him? Does not look like it. Shorty is pulling away from Deer Plot. It looks like this fight is going to swing in Shorty's favor here. I think this battle at the front is over. And speaking of which, battle for third, Origin and Mikun. Origin inside, Mikun outside. And while Origin drops tires into the dirt and has a great run in turn 1, the Toyota that AX4X Mikun has been in just has not had performance. And Origin is by. So Mercedes now make up 2 of the top 3 positions and 3 of the top 5. Not as crushingly dominant as they were in Stint 1, but it does look like they are finally coming to life after the first round of softs are over here. Quick look at the changes. Oh, and Dragon's off as the lead category cars go by. So thus far, the biggest mover since the start has been NWR Origin. Started near the back of the GT4. Oh my goodness, look at Mikun gonna take it 3 wide! Mikun's not done with Origin yet! He's to the inside, and he's by the Mercedes! Use the lap traffic as a pit, that was fantastically done! So now Mikun is back ahead of Origin, but for how long? Origin's got the draft. Does he try and go to the inside? Mikun puts up a half-hearted defense. Origin's gonna bully his way to the inside. Mikun's wide, through the dirt, but blocked Origin. The Toyota slides in front of the Mercedes, but there's nowhere for the Mercedes to get back by. Mercedes tries to cut to the inside, but the curb settles the car. Mikun holds station for a little longer. And that is DTY who is off. What's happened to DTY? That car is destroyed. It's damaged. Everything is destroyed, and now it's stalled on the track. And DTY is stuck on the racetrack, cannot seem to get moving. The fight for third continues. Origin tried to go around the outside of Mikun, but did not have the handling to make it stick. Onto the back straightaway. Origin was right there, but didn't have the greatest run coming onto the short chute here. Not short chute, the back straightaway. All right, and now this is where Origin's best chance is to make something happen. He's gonna have a draft on Mikun all the way down. Might not even need the draft. He goes to the inside of Mikun immediately. It's already a drag race. Toyota versus Mercedes. Toyota trapped on the outside line. Has to walk the way around. Origin's pitting. Mikun's pitting. They're both gonna pit at the same time. Unanimate is pitting. Unku is pitting. So already, a large percentage of the field are making their second round of stops. DTY finally moving once again. Shorty is at 41.8% tire life. FRA Deer Plot is at 40%. So while Deer Plot has lost track position, lost track position to Shorty, Deer Plot is running this stint on a harder tire compound. We believe it's the mediums, and Shorty is on the softs. But once these two pit, I'm going to be really interested to see who ends up ahead of the other, and if they end up pitting with a one-lap offset to each other. After pit stops were over, Mikun ends up back ahead of NWR Origin. And Unanimate ends up ahead of Yes Unku once again. Alright, we're going to go ahead and knock out an ad break, and when we come back, we're going to try and keep an eye on when the rest of our leaders in the top category make their stops. We'll be back shortly here at Sunset. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Sunset Peninsula as NWR Origin is closing back in on AX4X Mikun. He was ahead of Mikun when they both came to the pits, but Mikun had a nice, shorter, quicker pit stop and beat Origin on the way out. So Origin has to make this overtake all over again. Can they make it stick? They pull up behind the Toyota. As he looks to the inside, not this time. Seems like for now, Mikun's able to keep Origin behind. Our top three drivers in the top category have yet to make their second stop. Mikun still leads over Origin for this 5 for 4th. How do you get alongside? How do you get by? Now stuck up behind traffic once more. That is, I believe, one of the Apex drivers. Here comes Mikun and Origin. Both will dispose of the GT5 category car without issue. That is Apex Dragon. Nose to tail. This could be a great shot for Origin to go ahead and get alongside and try to drag race Mikun down to the start finish line. Not this time. They've got the traffic. They're not in a position to drag race. Mikun's opening the gap just a little bit. Origin should have the draft to close back in. All right, Apex Dragon now pits at second place in the bottom category. But Origin is not closing on Mikun the way that we thought they would be able to. Orton's wide. Orton's still wide. McCoon seems to be better off right now. McCoon had a bad time in Stint 1, just kind of plummeted down the grid bit by bit. A big chunk of it came from a self-inflicted spin and accident on the way to making their first stop. And here we are, HYR Shorty is pitting, but FRA Deerplot is going to join them. We don't know about CBL Ferrari yet. We'll get word on that shortly. This is the fight for fourth. So Shorty and Deerplot can likely make it to the end of this stint on only 2 more pit stops. And yes, CBL Ferrari will join them in the pits. So Primo Carnival is the only driver left in the top category who has yet to make a second stop. Origin seems to be able to catch McCoon, but actually making overtakes seems to be a lot harder. As I say that though, this might be it. He's right under the rear wing. If you want to make a draft overtake, this would be the best chance and best place to do it. He's more than half, he's less than half the distance he was to McCoon this time last lap. There's no traffic ahead. Not yet. No, there won't be any traffic ahead. You don't have to worry about traffic issues. But Origin makes contact with McCoon right before they get to turn 1. And now Origin goes for an extreme outside line. Tries to turn the crossover. The handling's not there in the car. That seems to be pretty cut and dry. It seems like McCoon has it. McCoon sideways. McCoon sideways. Here comes Origin. There's a self-inflicted driver issue, and now Origin shoots by and goes up into the 3rd spot. Just a little bit behind is Unanimate. McCoon slaps the outside wall farther back there. I think that fight has finally swung in Origin's favor. These cars, the GT4 cars, are so wide and so heavy compared to each other that it seems like any overtake just basically has to come off the back of the driver ahead, making a big mistake. Even when you have a big toe down the straights, it's just not, you're just not able to comfortably get alongside going into turn 1 to make something happen. All right, McCoon trying to do something to fight back. He's going to have the draft on Origin this time. Origin's wide coming onto the banking. McCoon had a horrible run coming onto the banking. Looks like that fight's over. Yeah, that's over. Origin has it, and while McCoon is now starting to close back in by virtue of the draft, he's not going to have a chance to try and put pressure on Origin unless Origin bottles the corner. And it's McCoon who bottles turn 1 instead. That fight seems to be over. At the head of the field, Shorty has opened up a gigantic gap on Deerplot. Tucked up behind DTY right now. It's going to be a little bit frustrating because DTY had that accident, went multiple laps down earlier, but that is a Mercedes that has shown competency and speed. You're going to have to overtake it on merit, and they will do just that, going around the outside. How long is Primo Carnivore planning to stay out? He still has not yet made a stop. Surely he'll be coming in this time. I mean, CBL Ferrari behind. CBL Ferrari has got to be absolutely livid at being held up by someone else in such a radically different strategy for so long. Ferrari feels that he should probably be up there fighting with Unanimate for the 5th position right now. Also, speaking of which, now that Origin is really breaking away from McCoon, Unanimate is now the driver, starting to put AX4X McCoon under a little bit of pressure here. Got the draft, looking at the outside. McCoon's going to defend the inside. Unanimate to the outside. Drag race down the straightaway. And the Alpine completes the overtake. Around the outside in turn 1. That is a driver who is really happy with the handling of his car. So fantastic job there by Unanimate. Gets around McCoon without issue. Also, Primo Carnivore has finally made their 2nd stop. So everyone in the top category, in fact, everyone except for Green Echo, who is last in the bottom category, everyone has made your first 2 stops of the event at this stage of the fair. HYR Shorty leads. It was looking like it was going to be Deerplot's day, but Shorty caught Deerplot when Deerplot was running on medium tires and Shorty was on softs, opened up a gap, and right now, Shorty continues to lead. AWR Origin is hanging out in a respectable, although distant third. There is this fight going on as I take that back. Unanimate has already run down Origin. And now to the inside of Origin. Neck and neck, side by side, and the Alpine's by. Origin comes back to the inside. We'll get back by Unanimate here. And Mikun is just a little bit behind this. I thought Origin had a bigger gap on this fight than he actually did, and already Unanimate back ahead of Origin, up to third. Coming up on a bit of traffic, you have to be careful through here. Origin to the outside of Unanimate. He goes deep into the corner. Unanimate squeeze, Origin wide. Origin bounces over the curbs on the outside. Unanimate holding station, and now Mikun's back into the fray. Oh! Slap on the wall by Mikun. And this battle continues to go back and forth as this goes on. Unanimate doesn't have the great straight line speed, but you give him a little bit of draft and he'll be fine. Origin seems to have a little bit better straight line speed, but seems to struggle just a little bit more keeping the car on track and smooth in the twisties, and then Mikun is just a little bit worse than both of them, but the longer the third and fourth place drivers continue to fight, it gives Mikun more and more of a shot of actually doing something here. Alright, Origin should have a draft on Unanimate coming onto the straight once more. Big twitch by the Alpine. Origin sees Unanimate, he should be able to start closing in. No, not quite. It seems like maybe Unanimate's actually pulling away just a bit. That might be it. That might be a fight over, honestly. If Unanimate is that good, has Origin damaged his engine or something? No, there's no engine damage. He just does not seem to have it right now. Well, it seems like these battles have finally calmed down just a bit. We're going to go ahead and knock out one of the mandated Twitch ad breaks. We'll be back shortly here at Sunset Peninsula as we continue to watch this battle going on, this stalking battle going on for the third and fifth positions here. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Sunset Peninsula. Not quite, well, we're about halfway through the actual racing portion of Stint 2 here. Origin holding on to 4th position, but Unanimate ran them down and just blew them away, but their tires are just about cooked. They'll have to pit very shortly here. Look at NWR Origin here, just a little bit farther back. They are on a harder compound tire and will be out here for a little bit longer. And AX4X Mikun, who has been trying to do something to those cars ahead, similar position, he's on a harder tire compound. So while Unanimate was able to go crazy and run down this duo, he'll be pitting shortly and will fall back behind this group in a bit. Your leader, HYR Shorty, inherited the lead a little bit before the second round of pit stops and just ran off with it and held it. FRA Deerplot wanted to go back-to-back on wins, but that does not seem to be the case. But still, I would imagine first and second would still be something they'd be happy with. Once you drop out of the top 5, you get CBL Ferrari, who is hanging out here in 6th, running their own wild strategy with... Well, those numbers can't possibly be accurate, so we don't really know what their tires are looking like. But those numbers are most definitely not accurate right now. Then you have Des Unku, who we honestly were expecting a little bit more. This car got 3rd overall, was honestly fighting for 2nd in Stint 1, but this just might not be something that Unku feels comfortable with. Then you have XI Evo IX in the Mercedes. This Mercedes had a top 3 result in Stint 1, but they're going to be pitting, I imagine, this lap, maybe next lap, probably this lap here. And then you have UDP Saki, who had an accident back on lap 1, but has been clawing their way back up the field. They're all the way back up into 9th right now. So Saki really trying to put himself on his shoulders, I guess, and try to bring something out of it. RZX Yasny fought a little bit higher up in the grid early in the event, but his performance has just kind of dribbled away as the laps have ticked on. Then you have Primo Conor, who is on a wildly alternate strategy. He's been going way deeper on pit stops than anyone else. Then you have Woeful Guitar, who's going to be coming in this time by 12th, which can still be better than where they are looking at compared to the last stint. Then you have FTC Dartman, way back here in 13th. Not been a great run for them. And then you have DTY, who is still multiple laps down and has yet to clear the entirety of the bottom category. DTY had an accident, and then while trying to navigate around, had another incident, and his car stalled on track for a prolonged period of time. He has multiple laps down to everyone else in the category, and no one has dropped out in this race, so DTY is not looking to really make ground. If anything, this will lose significant ground for the team. So I have him on track for now, although we'll likely see DTY overtake him shortly, is RM Lynx. Lynx won Stint 1 in this bottom category, the GT5s, and he's been cleanly walking off and dominating thus far here in Stint 2 in this category. There's really been no fight here in the GT5 category. This Toyota seems to has what it takes to walk off with this. Second place is Apex Dragon 5 in the Audi, who has been fighting back and forth with UDP Liddy Kitty for quite some time today. These two have not been on top of each other all day, but they have spent a good chunk of the time going back and forth. Then you get Evan Bob, not to be confused with the restaurant chef, back here in the 4th position in the GT5 category. Then Deadpan, X7, Reality, followed by UDP Wit, the lone Porsche entry. And then pitting now is Green Echo, who's finally making their second stop. I don't know what kind of strategy they are on, but that basically runs you down through the entire field at this stage of the event. So after Mikuns also made their 3rd stop, they are still well behind Uninanimate. So Uninanimate may be a legitimate contender for a top 5 finish right now. We look at the fuel and tire data for our top 5. Shorty will likely be pitting, maybe not this lap, but in the next 2 to 3 laps. FRA Deer Plot here in second. Probably stay out for quite a bit longer. He does have a bit of a tire advantage over Shorty by about 1 to 2 laps. Then you have NWR Origin, who is here in third. They're pushing this set of tires really long. And then right behind is CBL Ferrari. Has been held up by other people, have been spending a lot more time fighting. We don't know what their numbers are, but Ferrari is running Origin down right now. And in 5th place, Uninanimate, the highest of everyone who's already made 3 pit stops today. I'm really curious what they're trying to go for, because if they're going to do a 5-stop strategy, I do not think this car is fast enough to make a 5-stop strategy work and still come home with a top 5 result. I wonder if they're going to try and save their medium tire stint for the very last pit stop of the day. It would feel very frustrating for them, but I wonder if that is the game plan that they have for the event. Our DTY still has not overtaken Lynx because DTY has made his 3rd stop already. But yeah, Lynx, it's gotta feel real nice to know that not only are you dominating your category, you're still ahead of drivers in the higher category. So I do want to say great job on them. All right, UDP Saki finally coming in to make their 3rd stop. So that'll drop them down the order a little bit. And now HYR Shorty finally coming in to make what will be their 3rd stop of the day. Deerplot slaps the outside wall, coming onto the bank. He's going to be out here for a while. At least 2 more laps, if not 3. Could that be the thing? Can Deerplot get Shorty back off of a tire delta as this event goes on? Although Deerplot needs to be a little bit more careful navigating traffic than that. CBL Ferrari runs in 4th. Continues to see NWR Origin just a little bit up the road. With some technical issues, you can't really tell what Ferrari's tire strats are looking like. But he has been able to run NWR Origin down on merit, despite being held up multiple times. Interestingly enough, UDP Glitty Kitty has already gone ahead and made their 3rd stop. They are the only driver in the bottom category who's already knocked out all 3 stops. So, that's definitely unexpected. No one else around Glitty Kitty right now, though. But we'll likely see them go and find with Apex Dragons in a bit, once Dragon finally elects to make their stop. Deerplot still has yet to pit out of the lead. Is Deerplot versus Shorty, and while Shorty has track position, Deerplot may have a overall tire advantage. Origin finally pitting out of 3rd position. So we'll see. Oh, and that was Saki, I believe. He just had a big slide through turn 1, and the car is destroyed. I think he hit the wall. He may have hit the wall on the inside. There's no engine damage, but aerodynamically and handling-wise, that thing is going to be inhaled. And Saki, who is trying to charge his way back into a top 10 result, this is going to derail any shot of that. Frustration for Saki. Saki is still able to dispose of lower category traffic without too much issue, it seems. Are they going to be paying to repair the damage? If they don't pit, I'm going to assume it's another technical issue that we're seeing, but I saw a big puff of smoke and they were way slow as if they had hit the inside wall at turn 1, and yep, here they come into the pits now. That confirms that UDP has already made 4 stops, and they would have to go the remaining 40 minutes of this race on no more stops. So I imagine that Saki, by force, is going to have to go to a 5-stop strategy. CBL Ferrari finally pits out 3rd. So where are they going to end up in relation to NWR Origin? That is the question. Origin's already made their stop. Where is Ferrari? Ferrari's still in pit lane. Already moving though. Here comes Origin down the front straightaway. The gap begins rapidly closing down. Now to turn 1. That's Ferrari on the inside, and Origin clears them. Origin clears them by a significant margin, but is trapped on the outside by UDP Saki. Didn't anticipate Saki being there, and that's going to neutralize some of the advantage, but the undercut continues to be the big one. All right, so real quickly, let's look down at the GT5 category once more. RM Lynx has finally been overtaken by DTY. Lynx has basically been the dominant driver in the top category pretty much all day long. We don't know when they're going to make their 3rd stop, although with how burnt up that left front is and how little fuel they have left, it will likely be this time by. There is a fight, a multi-way fight going on for 2nd between Evan Bob, Deadpan X, UDP Wick, and Glitty Kitty. Glitty's already made his stop quite a bit earlier. I have no way, I will go ahead and say I have no way to visualize what the actual gap is in seconds. I do apologize for that. But the gap between Deep Plot and Shorty looks like this right now. And Shorty has already made their 3rd stop. Deer Plot has yet to make their 3rd stop. So Deer Plot will be paying in a bit and will end up way behind Shorty again. But anyways, RM Lynx is your leader in the pits. UDP Glitty Kitty, by virtue of already making their 3rd stop way earlier than everyone else in the category, has cycled back into 2nd. 3rd place in GT5 is Apex Dragon, who they were fighting actively with Glitty Kitty, but as this has gone on, the undercut continues to be the dominant choice, and Apex Dragon, by virtue of not taking the undercut, has fallen behind Glitty Kitty on track. 4th place is Evan Bob, who has just come out of pit lane. Then 5th place is Deadpan here in the Audi. 6th place is UDP Wick in the lone Porsche, and 7th is Green Echo, who I have no idea what his strategy is. He has taken so long to make any of his stops and has been massively off pace. All right, Deer Plot in the pits, and here comes HYR Shorty, and will clear Deer Plot without issue. Deer Plot's not even got out of his box yet. So the lead goes back to HYR Shorty. But we think that Deer Plot has a tire advantage. Thing is that the undercut has been the dominant choice throughout most of the day in both Stint 1 and Stint 2. And we believe that Deer Plot got the undercut working. I mean, not working, but kind of threw away the undercut to prioritize tire life. Shorty is now working undercuts, and look at this. Now both 1st and 2nd have made their stops. That is what the difference between the two of them looks like on track. So now everyone in the top category, except for Primo Carnivore, who is off on his own strategy, has made their 3 of their 4 mandatory stops. Although we do believe that UDP Saki is likely locking himself into a 5-stop strategy due to accidents, and we think that there is a likelihood that this driver, currently running in 3rd, Uninanimate, is also considering, though not guaranteed, they may be considering a 5-stop strategy as well. Big slide by the Alp. All right, we're gonna go ahead and knock out one of Twitch's mandatory ad breaks, but we will come back shortly here at Sunset Peninsula Raceway. We only have about 35 minutes left here in Stint 2 for the C Lobby for the 10 hours of Sunset presented by TORA. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back here at Sunset Peninsula. When it comes to the Mercedes Mafia, the big topic throughout the majority of Stint 1, well, the Mercedes Mafia is still here in numbers, but their performance has not been that great. FRA Deer Plot is the highest of the Mercedes Mafia, as they continue to run in second position. Then you have to go way down the order to CDL Ferrari, who is currently fourth, but might be on track for a third here in that 998 machine. Then you have NWR Origin. They are fifth right now. Might be on track for fourth, but the jury's out on that one. Origin was on track for a top 3 in Stint 1, but disconnected with about 10 minutes left. They desperately want to make sure that doesn't happen again. Then the fourth highest member of Mercedes Mafia is currently seventh. This is XL Evo LX. This car fell down the order pretty far back early on, but since then has been gradually pulling their way up through the grid. Fifth in the Mercedes Mafia is RZX Giacchini, who has been fighting around the 10th place position most of the day. Then you start getting to the drivers who just are not having a good time of it at all. Primal Carnivore may have gone off there, but Woeful Guitar in 10th, which would still be better than where that car was in the prior stint, but definitely one better than this. Unanimate finally making their fourth stop of the day and doing it with 32 minutes left. We'll get back to that shortly. Then you go down to FTC Darman. No! A Deer Plot! Oh my goodness, an FR8 Deer Plot! The winner of Stint 1, second place driver, has suddenly dropped out! And suddenly the entire event is turned on its head, and the best running driver in the Mercedes Mafia suddenly disconnects. We don't know what happened to cause that, but now with that, unless Shorty has something catastrophically go wrong, this should be an easy walk-off for them. Drama. Alright, also real quickly, I do want to go ahead and talk about Unanimate, as I said I was going to do, as Unanimate has already made their fourth stop. There are still 31 minutes left in the event. There are two different ways you can see Unanimate's stint going to the end. Either one, Unanimate has put on a set of medium tires and they won't pit to the end, and they're going to be dealing with some horrendous tire fall off at the very end here. Or two, you throw it on softs, continue to just go full bore all the way, and we'll have to make a fifth stop. Either way, while Unanimate has a decent amount of track position right now, I don't think that Unanimate has any shot of finishing better than fifth, because they are either going to be completely derailed by performance, of tire fall off, or they're going to be derailed by having to make a pit stop. We're not sure which way that's going to go yet. And Animate goes to the inside of Yes Unku there. Clears Unku without issue. Unku's got to be more than a little frustrated. The performance in that McLaren just has not been there today. Wow, they very nearly hit each other going into turn 1 there. Unku holding the outside on Anime on the inside. He squeezes the McLaren almost into the dirt. Well, now with Deerplot disconnecting, we only have 2 Mercedes in the top 6. So the Mercedes Mafia really dealing with some derailment here in Stint 2. Now mind you, Mercedes makes up the bottom 4 positions right now, and 6 of the bottom 7 positions in the top category at the moment. Real quick, just a catch up on what the GT5 category looks like. RM Lynx continues to lead by a gigantic margin. He is honestly could be at pace to put other drivers in his category a lap down. We already know he's got Echo a lap down, but there is a possibility that we could see RM Lynx put the likes of UDP Wick a lap down, depending on how the rest of this goes. UDP Liddy Kitty runs in 2nd position, has gradually been opening their gap over Apex Dragon, who runs in 3rd right now, the highest of the Audis in the GT5 category. Then in 4th, you have Evan Bob in that 130 Excite machine. Following that is Deadpan X7. The Audi is a little bit farther back. Then UDP Wick in the Porsche. The only Porsche in the entire event. Not just in this lobby, but in the entire event. And then you have Green Echo, who is way back here in 20th. UDP Saki has already made 5 stops today and still has to go 28 minutes before this is over, and their tires are not looking very good. They may have to make it. Well, no, their tires are looking fine enough. If they put on mediums, they might be able to, you know, put a stiff upper lip and just deal with it. But it's just not been good for them whatsoever. The only positive to them is that they have almost an entire lap over DTY. Who it's just been awful for DTY today. Sasaki likely won't be any worse than 12th. One other thing that helps is that with Deerplot, who won Stint 1, with him having disconnected here in Stint 2, it kind of, at least for all the drivers fighting amongst each other here just for Stint 3, it opens the door way open for everyone here in this lobby against each other. Now, obviously, we're not anticipating that anyone in C lobby is going to be fighting for the overall win. We're anticipating will likely just be winners in B lobby, and then the upper half of the field in A lobby fighting for overall Stint win. But not Stint, but overall event victory. But we do think that as it comes down to it, as finally Shorty is making their 4th stop. But we do think at this stage of the event, we are looking at a scenario where anyone, I think, who is in the top 5, except for Origin, who had a disconnect in the prior set, but anyone who is in the top 5 right now can go ahead and probably fight for the overall win, assuming that there aren't any more disconnects to kind of continue to shake and randomize things here out of the C lobby contenders fighting amongst each other. Okay, so Shorty has made their 4th stop, and they are still well ahead of CBL Ferrari. So now the question is, because we still have 26 minutes left in the event, did Shorty put on medium tires or did he put on soft tires? Because if Shorty's like to put on medium tires, they will not have to worry about pitting again. And we just had another disconnect. Oh my goodness! It's RM Lynx, the dominant driver who won Stint 1 and was dominant dominating Stint 2! What's happened in the top category has now happened in the bottom category! RM Link suddenly drops out! We have lost our 2 winners from Stint 1, and now both of them drop out here in Stint 2! I cannot believe what's happened! Twice! Who is writing the scripts? Give me the person who is writing the scripts. They need to write better scripts. No one would believe this is happening. And RM Lynx, who had a gigantic gap on everyone else, and now it goes to a fight between Apex Dragon and UDP Glitty Kitty for the win here in the bottom category. How in the world has this happened? CBL Ferrari finally pitting out of the second position, with there being about 25 minutes left. Again, you could probably throw on mediums and just make mediums last to the end. But ridiculous and absurd drama here is the name of the game. This also now opens up the fight for the GT5 category win amongst just the C-Lobby teams. Obviously, again, we're not anticipating any of them will be fighting for overall victory, but amongst the C-Lobby teams, all of a sudden, everything opens way up for them as well. I find it really hard to believe the kind of things that we're seeing happening here today. The 2 drivers who have dropped out have been the 2 that were looking to massively extend their overall wins, and now everything is way up in the air. UDP Kitty coming into the pits now. Apex Dragon staying out for a little bit longer. But his fronts are really getting cooked at the moment. HYR Shorty, who leads in the top category, he's at 7.2%. So Shorty has probably thrown on some medium tires and is not looking to pit again for the rest of the day. NWR Origin has made 3 stops, but we are still waiting to see them make their 4th stop, which will likely come in about 3 or 4 laps. Uninanimate is in 3rd, and their tire life is at 28%. I think that Uninanimate is going to make 1 more stop here in the next 4 to 5 laps, and then that will be it. I think Uninanimate is going for a 5-stop strategy. Then you have Yes Unku, who still has yet to make their final stop. It should be this lap or next lap, and you could probably throw on medium tires to go to the end without too much issue with that. And then you have in 5th place right now, CBL Ferrari will likely inherit some of the positions, but the game seems to think that this man has had an accident. Yeah, we have not been able to get working data from CBL Ferrari's car throughout the stint. We do apologize for that. But he has made 4 stops, and assuming he has medium tires, he should not have to worry about paying again for the rest of the event. I think that CBL Ferrari and NWR Origin are setting themselves up for a 2nd and 3rd place result here. For Origin, that would be huge, considering that he disconnected with 10 minutes left in the prior stint. For CBL Ferrari, this might actually put him ahead overall out of everyone in the Mercedes Mafia. Also, real quickly, AX4X Mikum, we had talked earlier about them. We thought they'd be a little bit more competitive than what they have been, but it's just, the race has just not been there at all for them. Mikun, he's done better here in Stint 2 than he did in Stint 1, but still looking like Mikun is on track for a finish around the 7th and 9th positions once more. Primo Carnivore continues to be running really, really bizarre strategies, waiting to make their stops as late as possible in today's event. Then you'll get RZX Jassini, Woeful Guitar, and FTC Dartman, who've already made all 4 stops. Some of them might have to make a 5th one, we don't know. Then you have UDP Saki, who's had 2 different accidents over the course of the day. And then you'll have DTY, who may still have to make a 5th stop, and he is multiple laps down. Jestunku, finally, making the stop here. This will likely be their last stop of the day. So, of everyone in the top 6, NWR Origin is the only driver we are waiting to see make their final pit stop, and that likely won't be for quite some time here. What's happened to Glitty Kitty? Has it already made a stop? Yeah, Glitty Kitty has already made their final stop. So Glitty Kitty is trying to do the undercut to end up ahead of Apex Dragon. Speaking of which, Apex Dragon has come into the pits now. Alright, so what can Glitty Kitty do against Apex Dragon? He had the track position earlier, but lost it against Dragon. He's gone for the undercut. Will the undercut get him back ahead of Apex Dragon? Deadpan X7 also is pitting. Avwa is currently third in the bottom category. Dragon's already on the run down to turn 1. AK flying down the straight, but already Dragon's coming out of turn 1. Dragon should already be up to full sun, I imagine. I think Dragon's going to maintain advantage over Glitty Kitty. Yes, he will. So Apex Dragon now in the lead in the bottom category and could be out here fighting for a stint win. Well, you know what to say. To finish first, you must first finish. And while RM Lynx was fast enough that he could have honestly started putting drivers in his category a lap down, he was not able to finish. And it is Apex Dragon who leads. And he has a significant tire advantage as well. As long as it doesn't end up in an instant, I think that Dragon should be able to walk off with this. 9 minutes left for everyone to knock out their mandated 4th stop. Origins still not pitting though. Same with Prino Carnivore. They are the only drivers in the top category who have yet to pit. Evan Bob, who briefly inherits the lead by virtue of him staying out longer, finally will come into the pits. So we'll see Apex Dragon 5 go ahead and take the lead back, but Evan Bob has at least led a lap in the event. So it seems like pretty cut and dry strategy in the bottom category. Just do 4 stops, don't worry. This 5-stop thing really seems to be only limited to the top category. And Unanimate, there is 18 minutes left, and Unanimate's at 46%, where I imagine that Unanimate will probably pit not this lap, but next lap, and then go on softs to the end. The thing is that once Unanimate pits, he's going to end up behind CBL Ferrari, and I think he'll be ahead of Evo. So might be fine with CBL Ferrari for what could be third, but realistically, I think Ferrari has enough of track position advantage, it won't matter. AX4X Mikun is fighting with XL Evo for what is currently the 5th position right now. Crossover, no, Mikun cuts the Mercedes nose off there. For those of you who have missed, the winner in Stint 1 for both categories was FRA Deerclaw and RM Lynx, and both of them have disconnected NWR Oregon, who is ranked 2nd, although he's finally paid, so he's going to drop a little bit of track position. But NWR Oregon was a top 3 driver in Stint 1, but disconnected with 10 minutes left. We do not yet know if Oregon will be able to make it to the end here. The Mercedes Mafia that had 4 of the top 6 finishing positions in Stint 1 are nowhere near as dominant here in Stint 2. And we have a potential fight between Apex Dragon 5 and UTT Glitty Kitty for the win in the bottom category as well. So there's a lot of interesting developments to keep an eye on here as this continues. We have about 16 and a half minutes left in Stint 2 for the C-Block. Glitty Kitty has caught the draft off of Apex Dragon 5. After making stops, NWR Oregon is still 3rd over Ferrari and Mikun. Yes, Unku actually fell all the way back to 8th, although he'll get back by Primo Carnivore. So Unku, way back there in 8th, will go up to 7th. We're still waiting to see when Unanimate, who is in 2nd, when he makes his stop. We anticipate that Unanimate is the only driver in the top 10 in the top category to remain to a 5-stop strategy, just going all stops all the time. We think he'll fall to about the 4th, maybe 5th, but likely the 4th place position. This, right now, though, is the fight for the win in the bottom category. Glitty Kitty and Apex Dragon having to go at the Mercedes going to the extreme outside, not really helping anyone of these three. He's anxious to get by, but those corners are just not good to go side by side through. Finally, he'll get a good straightaway, and there we are, Unanimate coming into the pits now. So we know that Unanimate's going to fall behind NWR Origin. We don't know where Unanimate's going to be in relation to CBL Ferrari, who just got by this duo. And while that wouldn't happen, Glitty Kitty has made the move for the lead on Apex Dragon. The Dragon has Glitty Kitty's draft as they come down to it here. Flying down the front stretch once more. Well, the Animate's actually going to have to figure out a way to get by this fight for the lead in the bottom category. These two are fighting on merit. They would have been fighting for second position on merit. Now they're just fighting for a win on merit. Oh, DTY, we're on the extreme outside, getting kind of pinched Glitty Kitty's run through the chicane there into one of the heaviest braking zones on the circuit. Dragon's not going to go for anything too crazy, just puts the bumper, but doesn't really force Glitty Kitty offline there. That is Unanimate there, about to come up on this fight. He's got soft tires. He's the only driver in the top category with a gigantic tire advantage, but he has a tire disadvantage. He needs to try and run down CBL Ferrari. Here's Dragon without issue. Will clear Glitty Kitty without any issue either. That is AX Rex Mikun. Will also get by that duo as well. Actually, we'll end up pulling up Glitty Kitty just a little bit. Here is Unanimate, and CBL Ferrari is already going down the front straightaway. So we're likely looking at Mercedes 1-2. Again, we don't really have any good data on CBL Ferrari's performance today. And then we have NWR Origin, the other wild card we still don't know how things are going to go for. As NWR Origin is in second, they were running top 3 in the first stint, but disconnected with about 10 minutes left. Needs desperately to actually make it to the end here. And HYR Shorty is your leader. Game has been glitching. We've not been able to see their paint scheme all day today, but Shorty is likely going to take this Aston Martin to a victory here, assuming nothing crazy happens. Most of the other battles on track have pretty much dissolved at this stage of the event. There is this. Mikun continues to watch Unanimate just up ahead of him. As Unanimate is struggling to navigate the traffic. But the tire advantage is so massively in favor of the Alpine that I think this is more a case of Mikun just barely holding on. Still, Mikun might be recovering. Oh, those tires are cooked though. With 12 minutes left, I imagine that Mikun may be forced to make an extra stop as well. What a fortune. He waited a long time as his tires feel looking. 17.5%. DTY making another stop now. Mercedes has the four last place positions in GT4 and has 6 of the bottom 7. The fortunes of the Mercedes Mafia have pretty much inverted, as really opened up performance for cars and teams that we were not expecting to have good days here. Dragon continues to hang out as the leader overall ahead of him in car shorty, but the 1-2 cars up, that is Glitty Kitty who is the leader. Interestingly enough, Glitty Kitty should have a tire disadvantage, but he did run down Dragon. 39% tires. Dragon's tires are at 20%. But Glitty Kitty caught and overtook Dragon on merit and has been gradually opening the gap. And yes, sure enough, AX4X McCoon is going to make a 5th pit stop here to drop them down the order quite a bit. Everyone making their final required stops are going to be doing so now, but everyone's already done 4 stops, so I don't think it's going to matter too much. UDP Saki now making their 6th stop of the day, and they're still going to be ahead of the likes of Dartman and DYT. Also, just Uku briefly is now going to move up into the 5th position now. In fact, I think Uku might actually pull off at the 5th position with all this. So we're curious once more about the gap for 3rd, the fight for 3rd between CBL Ferrari and Unanimate. As we are in the final stretch, we're going to knock out one more ad break, and then we're going to stick with this for the last 7-8 minutes to the end here. Don't go away, we'll be back shortly here at Sunset Peninsula. Ladies and gentlemen, your eyes do not deceive you. The fight for the GT5s has switched again. UDP Glitty Kitty got into it with one of the higher category cars and went off in the turn 2 hairpin. And now Apex Dragon has stationed over Glitty Kitty once more. Now we've seen UDP run down and overtake Apex before. Could they do it again? They've got a little bit more than 7 minutes left to do it. But the big thing to consider is the tire disadvantage. Look at the tire life that Glitty has. And second, look at what Apex has in the lead in this category. This fight is going to go down to the end, but I see almost no way that Dragon loses this unless he goes off. But now Glitty is trying to put up a fight. Even if it's very unlikely to make it work, they don't care. They're going for it. It's going to be a drag race, neck and neck across the line. Glitty has the nose ahead as he crossed it. He's back ahead of Dragon. Again, the big question is going to be the tire life. We're looking at still about 2 more laps, and we don't know what the tire life is going to look like between them. There's also still the possible fight for 3rd between CBL Ferrari and Unanimate, 3rd in the top category. But right now, it looks like Unanimate, it just has too much of a track position disadvantage unless Ferrari has a complete catastrophic tire failure. This fight for the win is the one worth watching right now. third place, Evan Bob is close enough that if these two got into it, had an accident with each other, he would likely be able to capitalize. RZX Jasony is pitting. Why is this? Is there damage? No, this has burned his tires up and apparently not timed it very well. So Kitty leads, Dragon in second. But Kitty seems to have been Dragon's superior when it comes to driver versus driver throughout most of the day. The big thing might come down not to driver ability, but tire life here. As we come across the line, it's 5 minutes left in the stint. The gap does still seem to be opening. Despite running off, is Kitty going to get this? That's one of the DT4 cars coming up on the inside. That is the Mercedes of UDP Saki. Unanimate is starting to close down on Ferrari, but with only about 4 minutes left, we just don't think there's going to be enough time for Unanimate to steal third off of the Mercedes. But the best that the Mercedes Mafia can put up is a second and third. BYT making their 7th stop of the event. So again, DTY seems to be making on average about 12 stops throughout the event. Oh, big twist there by Dragon as they came onto the banking. That gap is opening. I think Kitty is going to get it here. This is going to be the last full lap of this duo goes around. That's 61%, but Kitty is still pulling on Dragon. Dragon dropping tires in the dirt there is not going to help him any. Oh, as I say that, the gap suddenly shrinks. Is that it? Have the tires gone off? Is that all that Dragon needs? Has Kitty pushed the tires too far now? And the fight is on for third also. They have caught each other. I'm going to put my priority on this battle here. But the fight for third in the top category is alive also. Dragon's gonna have to deal with traffic behind him coming up and trying to get around. That could compromise any ability to make a move. But as it's set, they come onto the back straightaway. Here they'll briefly be 3 wide. Dragon out accelerating Kitty. Kitty beat him going into the braking zone. Kitty's a little bit faster in the straight, but under braking, there's side by side a little bit of contact. Kitty holds station. The Dragon's there. Kitty slides wide. Dragon holds the tighter inside line. Drag race. Turn 3 and 4. Well, not turn 3 and 4. Speedway turns 1 and 2. Kitty has a car that has a better straight line speed advantage. But he's going to have to be careful. Coming down into the corner. Turn 1. Can he keep the car under him? There's less than 2 minutes left. Kitty still holds it. Through the hairpin once more. And he's wide. Kitty misses the apex. And Dragon goes by. No fight can be put up there. And the same thing's happened in 3 for a 3rd place position. Unanimate has destroyed Origin. And despite doing a 5-stop strategy, Unanimate is going to take one of the podium positions by the looks of it. Oh, he's sideways. Big sideways moment. That's going to let the Mercedes have a run back. Ferrari to the inside, they make contact, heavy under braking. The Alpine's out of control. Ferrari's still there. It's gonna be a drag race going forward. Unanimate has it. Ferrari slaps the outside wall. He looks to the outside, looks to the inside. The gap between Dragon and Kitty has massively opened up now. Unanimate has it. Ferrari has the draft though. But I think his tires might be too cooked to do anything with it. Half a minute left. This could be Ferrari's last chance to try and get third back. But the gap is already opening big time in favor of Unanimate. Come up onto the fight what was the fight for the lead in the bomb category. Clock ticks away. 2 seconds. 1. Time's up. Over. Plow. Well, that's going to be controversial. Kitty locked up the brakes when the time went off. And in the process, the car spun out of control and hit the wall, ending up right in front of Apex Dragon, who was ahead of Kitty. So that could end up being more than a little bit controversial here. The game says they're basically at the same distance, but I imagine, yes, Kitty looks like they're saying that's... What is going on here? All right, there we are. Kitty now starts to back off just a little bit. All right, we're going to knock out an ad break. We'll be back shortly here at sunset, and we will try to get interviews in, but this could be some real controversial moment here in this fight for the GT5 Stint win for Stint 2.